All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the live demo today. Thank you very much for spending time with us. This is an event that we're holding with our one of our member companies based in the US, Epsilon 3. And we're going to be discussing how to reduce errors in space missions and how to improve operational management based on the Epsilon 3's online platform, which Laura, the CEO, is going to introduce you today and discuss a couple of use cases about. So I don't want to take up any more of your time. Laura is the one you're here to hear from today. So Laura, if I can please hand over to you, and you can share your screen and begin with the event.
Yeah, sounds great. I think. Okay. Hi, everyone. Great to meet you. Thanks for having us today from the satsearch team. We're excited to be members and really haven't been enjoying the community. Okay, I wanted to just start off by giving you a high level, just so that you have an understanding of where we're coming from and why we're doing this. I spent 11 years at SpaceX and prior to that, 5 years at Northrop Grumman working in operations. So I've seen large scale operations, small scale. I started from the ground up. And something that I learned when I left and saw all of the community that was being built around space startups is people really wanted some standardization around how they operated, how they tested, and a way to track what they did and have an easy access to all of that information. So we found that a lot of teams that we talked to were still running their missions off of old tools or homegrown tools, paper checklists. I've talked to people that printed out PDFs. I've talked to people that email attachment PDFs. And there's just a really high probability of errors. There's a high probability of missing something, miscommunication, not having traceability. And we wanted to remove that possibility from your workflows. I also am really passionate about not wasting time doing things that could be automated. So this is something that is also a theme in how we're thinking about building our platform and how we're thinking about supporting all of you. So we are creating future of operations, starting with electronic procedures. So something you've probably grumbled about doing. I know I've grumbled about writing procedures. I know I've grumbled about releasing and reviewing procedures, something that we want to bring a little bit more happiness and joy to rather than grumblings. I don't like things that waste time, as I mentioned before. So what we're doing is modernizing how people think about their procedure set, how people think about gathering data, and how people think about what they have after they're done with an operation. So you don't miss anything, so you don't have any steps missed, any miscommunications. So we have brought together pieces of a lot of different tools that we've heard people use. Sometimes in, I'm sure, your position. So we've embedded the release process, so you don't have to create a JIRA ticket or send an email to get a review. We've integrated with command and telemetry, so we do have an API on the back end that allows operators and techs to integrate with either a test bed or a spacecraft in after on orbit. So you can see real-time telemetry, send commands in real time. We've also synchronized our web-based platform. So if I'm here and Rich, who's a member of my team, is somewhere else in the world, if I do something, he can follow along, he can watch what I'm doing, he can make comments, he can interact with me without sending me a Slack message, because we all know that things happen and I don't want things to be missed or things to be lost. So if you send a Slack message, you're going to lose that Slack message. It might contain vital information for what you might do the next time around. In addition, obviously, being on an integrated platform where you are gathering data, it does provide an easy way for people to find old tests that have been completed. So I can recall many times when I thought, oh my gosh, I did that test a month ago. I did the same thing today. why are they different results? And I couldn't figure out what the test setup was, couldn't figure out what the data I gathered was, and it took me longer to find that information than to actually perform the test. So I want to make that process a lot easier. So continually improving how you're thinking about your operations. Another thing that we have found is that when people have documentation, either printed or word-based or Confluence, it's really hard for them to track what they need to change for the next release. So we're consistently learning from what we're doing. So we have a very iterative process. And if you learn something during an operation, we want you to be able to easily incorporate it the next time. So what we have is this idea of suggested edits. Some people call them red lines. If you want to change something within the next release, you can change it during a run. You can change it anytime. And then the next time you actually edit that document, you can pull in those suggested edits with a single click. So you don't have to refer to, I know some people told me they use Post-it notes. You don't have to lose Post-it notes or forget what you learned and then relearn it. So something that we continually harp on, especially when it comes to saving time and reducing errors. So we're supporting a very large portion of the project lifecycle, all the way from integration and test through operations. So you think about your flat sat, you think about your simulator. We want people to train and sim and practice just like they fly. We also want people to be able to communicate from what happened in integration and test all the way through operations, so that there is traceability all the way through that entire life cycle. Okay, so I'll show you a lot of these capabilities today. I don't want to take up a lot of time talking about the capabilities, but we are expanding our capabilities into a lot of the integrations that I know people have been asking for. So when we talk to you later, after this demo, you can tell us, I'm using this for requirements, I'm using this software for my ERP system, and that's the expansion that we want to provide additional value to the team members using Epsilon 3. We're also providing easy access to a lot of the metrics and analysis to be able to really get into the information of how you're doing in your operation. Is there any other ways you can improve? Just a little bit of our user stories, which I won't go into, and then a couple of the customers that we're currently supporting. This is just a snapshot of a few of them, and there will be more information on how to request a demo at the end of the presentation today. So just to get into the demo very quickly, we have two ways of accessing Epsilon 3. One is obviously web-based. The other is you can download a copy and upload, sorry, not upload. You can download a copy and run it natively. So I opened it up in a window that you can't see. You can see this window, yes, the one on the right. And then on the left, it's just a website that's accessible anywhere you have internet. We also have availability to run offline. So this is just basically a pop-out window. You can download it onto your tablet or your phone. Works very well on remote devices. Yeah, so tablets, phone, iPad. I test on the Samsung tablet a lot. I know that might be antiquated, but either way, I'm just going to show you how this works, and hopefully Rich from my team can follow along and show you how that connected platform works. So a couple of user stories. I wanted to just go over a quick procedure that I wrote on how you would go through a Delta V, both planning and executing. So here you have one procedure that's already started. So I'm just going to jump into it right here. At the very top, you have some background information about what the procedure does. You can also see that we've got data that we're collecting. So, you can see telemetry in real time, and then these field inputs are gathering specific data. So if you want to type in data, I know that some data is available via telemetry, and some you just want to collect specific comments, specific background about what you're doing. You can then download that via CSV and post-processing, use that for any other tools that you might have. Down here is kind of the meat of the procedure itself. And within this, you've got data. So you can see the telemetry that's updating here, and it will actually evaluate pass or fail criteria on the last updated telemetry. So we're not sampling this telemetry very quickly. We only have it coming in about every 5 to 6 seconds. So you won't see it update very, very quickly in real time, but it is updating as the telemetry is updated. So depending on the sampling and the data rate of your telemetry, it will update more quickly. So if I'm here gathering some data, I can then put in a picture, which I think you will end up seeing a random picture I downloaded from the internet, but you can actually take a picture from your tablet. So if you're doing a test or a flat sat demonstration and something were to occur, you could take a picture and display it inline. And you can see here, I also have the commands. I'm not going to send the command on this step, but you'll be able to gather data, plots, pictures, attachments, and put it all inline. So really, again, bringing all of that information back to one space. Now, if I wanted to go back and say, I actually need to do this step again, I could go ahead and repeat it, and I would end up with a copy of that step. Now, a lot of times I will see a step being done, and then I will want to learn something from that or change what it looks like the next time. So I will go in here and put in an edit and change whatever it was in that step. And you can see now that I have that suggested edit. And next time I'll show you, I can go in and edit the procedure. It will actually give me a way to accept or reject that change. So I'm going to sign it off again. And you can see that it is timestamping everything, and Rich is seeing this update in real time. And you can see here that the progress bar up top is marching along. So any person that joins would be able to see how far we've progressed in that operation without even joining. Now going into this next step, I've got another way of gathering data. You have a table that you can gather data from as well. And if you have delineated this information to be gathered in the summary, you can automatically create a report from specific data that you've gathered as well. So I'm just going to say in here, gathering here specific data. And when I sign off, it will show Rich everything that I have done in here. Lastly, I wanted to show you within here, I've named this operation. So every time you open a procedure, you can give it a name. So, you know, it's delta V for the day, or it is in response to X anomaly. And what will happen is I can link different procedures to this. So if there's a nominal procedure that you're running and there is an anomaly that happens, and you want to start that anomaly procedure from inline here, you can then start it. You can link to any procedure or sub procedure, so any section of a procedure. So I'm just going to start this one right here, which will show me, you know, I have the same operation name because they're linked together. And from here, I've opened up just one section of this other procedure. And as I go through, as you can see that this section actually is only one step, which I don't have the authority to sign off on. So you can lock out authority on specific steps based on the operator role. And also you have to opt in to actually participating. So right now I am a viewer only on this procedure. So back to the, and by the way, if you want to ask questions, is it in the chat that they ask questions, or is it in, they can like verbally ask questions?
Yeah, we've asked people to use the Q&A function.
Okay.
Or the chat function's fine too, and then we'll be able to you know, collate those and put those to you at the end.
I see. What does inline mean? Oh, inline, just you see it here, inline telemetry. So without having to look elsewhere. So by that, I mean, you can actually display the inline telemetry in the procedure itself rather than having to go over to your GUI. And what it does is it actually pulls the telemetry in from the API, and it will show you the telemetry updating until you complete the step, and then it will record that data. So it's giving you a timestamp of when you recorded it, what the telemetry actually looked like. Any way to annotate telemetry from SIMs or real-time ops? I will have to come back to that question because I'm not sure I fully understand what you mean by annotate. But I would put in, I think what you mean is put in a comment. I would put in a comment on what the telemetry was doing or what you observed in the comment section here. Okay, so it looks like Rich has started this procedure itself also. So there's two linked procedures, and you can see they all have the same operation name because they were all kind of started from this parent, which is the Delta V procedure. And as we march through here, you'll just see things being updated. Now, say you come to a step that you do not think you need to do. You can skip the step and say, I am not skipping it. And what will happen is that step will be counted as completed, but you'll get a gray bar instead of blue, indicating that there is part of this procedure that has been skipped. Now, even though you've skipped it, you could still repeat it. Very quickly, back at the top, you can see you can jump all the way down to the next step. So if I wanted to look at the next step, I could jump quickly down here. You can see there's a couple of things, some telemetry updating within this step. And back at the telemetry question, once I complete, you can see now that it's recorded. Okay, anonymous attendee, we will have to come back to you on the cost of the software. If you can drop us your email, we can set up a chat to go back on that question. Okay, I'm going to end this procedure and go through the editing because I'm going to run out of time. I get lost in talking about all the different features that we've built. So ending this one, you choose an ending. So you say, you know, either this was successful or I aborted this. I did not complete this whole procedure, so I'm going to abort this and give it a little comment. That comment will be included in your summary report. And now I still have two procedures that are running, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go into create a new draft and find that suggested edit and show you guys how to incorporate that. So on this one, you have the master procedure list, and this master procedure list is going to contain all of the available operations. You can then sort on specific projects. So say I only wanted to look at the operations procedures. I am not a tester today. I am just part of the ops team. I would look at just the operations procedures, and then I would say, okay, I want to actually make a new draft of this procedure. What will happen is I'll create a new copy without doing a copy paste, without changing anything, just clicking on the new draft. And I will have a version, a next version of the procedure to work on. The released here quickly is only the only thing that you can run. So you can see down here, this procedure that we have in review is not available for run. So it has to be formally released. We don't have the requirement of the number of personnel to release because we wanted it to be flexible to whatever your process is. But suffice to say, it does have to be reviewed, and you do have to make a conscious decision to actually release it for use. Okay, so now getting into the draft, I'm going to create this new draft, and I have just a bunch of editable fields. Really quickly, we wanted to make edit as easy as possible. So you can see here on the left side, we've got this 6-dot menu, which basically gives you the ability to drag and drop anything you want from the detail level all the way up to the step level. one of my biggest pet peeves in writing procedures was 1, formatting, and 2, copy paste. So moving things around, inserting steps, inserting a section, and we wanted to make that as easy as possible. So you can take section delta and move it all the way up, and everything will get renumbered, moved automatically, which for me is a huge win, because that's something that really was slightly painful. Okay, so now getting into all of the data fields and data types. Down at the bottom here, you've got all of the different pieces that you can add to a step. So they are automatically configured for, so you don't have to format. So you've got the notes, caution, and warnings, which are just color coded, things that we use a lot in operations, you know, bring people's attention to something. You know, I have to have a warning before people do things, so that I don't run into a problem where people are doing things where they haven't reviewed any background information. And then if you look at kind of this 6-dot menu over here, I can drag any of the telemetry around. If I wanted to add other telemetry, I could then add it and bring it back up. This parameter search is just a search for all of the parameters that you've programmed in your API. So if you wanted specific telemetry, you could search for that telemetry and then perform some evaluation. So we have the ability to perform an evaluation on, you know, is it between this range, greater than, less than, and then in the procedure, when you run it, it would evaluate that telemetry and give you pass or fail. Because that's one of the other things that I found is a translation between what the procedure says and then going to the GUI, looking at the data, and then coming back to the procedure and then evaluating the telemetry. So wanted to take some of the friction out of that operation. Okay, so down here, I have a field input. There are multiple types of field inputs. So I chose a file, which basically means that if you're on a tablet and you click, it will say, do you want to take a picture or do you want to upload a picture? And in here, you can attach any file you want. I give a picture example because that's what I've heard most people use. But you can attach a plot, you can attach an Excel file, you can attach a video, and that would all display either as a link or in the form of a picture inline. You can also you can also select checkbox. So if you have a whole checklist of things, say you have a whole checklist of tools that you need to gather in order to perform an engine test, or steps that you need to perform, sub-steps that you need to perform, and you want to do them systematically within a specific step. I don't want to tell people how to write their procedures. I want to give them the tools to be able to operate either their test stand, their flat sat, or their vehicle as they would, as they see fit. So also you can gather data as a number. And if you utilize this number, we do actually require that you put in units. I've seen a lot of people forget units, and we know that numbers don't really mean anything unless they have units attached to them. You can also have text. So if you want to require a comment, you can then say, I have to require a text. And we're doing some spot checking. So if people try to check off steps without actually filling in these field inputs, it will give you a warning. You can click around, but it will say, you know, there were things in this step that you did not complete, would love for you to complete them. And then lastly, we also have the ignore or accept edits in here, which is the way that we can incorporate those suggested edits. So I am going to accept. You can see that that comment that I put as to why I made that suggested edit is in line here. All right, so once that's done, I made very small changes. I'm going to put this back into review, give it a new version number. And once I put that into review, I can send this to people to review it. So it does have a unique link ID. So if I wanted to send this to Rich to review it, I could. I also have a step indicator on what changed. So you can see, nothing changed down below here, but I did change something in this step. So you don't have to review the entirety of the procedure if you're just making small changes. And then I don't know if Audrey is on, but what I would do is either assign one or more reviewers, and I'm just going to assign myself. Once everyone has reviewed, you can then make an effort and make that decision to release it. And once you had released it, it would be then available for execution. Last but not least, wanted to show quickly the run history. So everything that you do in Epsilon 3 is recorded and timestamped. This is something that we're really keen on, because going back in time and figuring out what you did and when you did it and who did it is something that I find is really important when you're talking about operations, integration, and testing. So you can see here, all of the things that Rich and I did on this procedure are timestamped. And when I ended that procedure, it did show, I did not perform all of these steps. So I actually would have 100% completion, but a huge portion of the procedure was not performed. However, it did record all of the data that I have. And if I wanted to download all of the data in a CSV, I would have the ability to do that here. I would also have the ability to view a quick summary. And if I wanted to PDF and print that summary for closing out either a verification event or a requirement, or even just communicating, this was the planned and executed Delta V, without looking through the entirety of the procedure. Okay, I think that was almost everything I wanted to go through. The last thing I wanted to talk about is a little bit about access levels. So you saw, I had a bunch of operator roles, but just for the purpose of the demo, I give myself basically every operator role. However, that would not be the case if you were running your own operation. So you can see here, everybody's list is really long, but in practice, you would probably give everyone one or maybe two operations roles. And when they joined the procedure, they would have the ability only to sign off as those roles themselves. You have a couple of other access levels. So you can think of this access level as a global, and the global access gives people the ability to basically allows them to either edit, operate, be an admin, or just be a viewer. Now, viewers can approve and release procedures, they can comment, but they cannot execute steps in any of the tests or operations themselves. So we see viewers as maybe customers or high-level management, but probably not any of your test or operations team. And so that would be operators. Those people will be able to interact with the running procedures, and editors would then be able to interact mostly with the master procedure list, create, edit, incorporate suggested edits, and then assign reviewers. And then admin, sort of self-explanatory. And then you would assign roles based on who the users are. Okay, so I think we're about at time. So I didn't want to do much more, but I would love to field any other questions you guys have. So comments on telemetry by timestamp. Okay, it sounds like that was what you were looking for on the timestamping of telemetry. Does anybody else have any questions, or is there anything else I can show you, or any feature you think you would like us to include?
So Laura, there's a couple of other questions there.
Sure.
Aditya has asked, do you have any integrations with
I missed them.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, do you have any integrations with any of the ground station providers, specifically for network operations for satellites?
That's a great question. And our focus for this year is integrating with what our customers are asking for. Currently, our customers are asking for integrations with other software, but we do have on our roadmap to integrate with ground station providers. If there's a specific ground station provider that you would like us to integrate with, we are happy to start that process.
I think, Laura, if I could just add to that,
Go ahead.
Right now we do our telemetry and commanding through a middleware layer, which makes us a little bit agnostic. So if you're asking for the particular ground station or other telemetry systems, so if you would like to have us perhaps integrate with one in particular, please reach out and let us know what the request is. But we kind of work with most of the systems today through a very simple middleware layer through our API that we're also happy to share.
The last one is a question that I think I'm going to have to take to the engineering team on buffers for telemetry and data. So if you can send me an email to laura@epsilon3.io, Rishab, that would be great. And then I can get it to the engineering team.
Great. Laura, someone has also asked in the chat function whether the system is suitable and could be used for complex discrete manufacturing in industries such as A&D, shipbuilding, etc.
It can, and we do have some customers who are using it for some of their manufacturing processes as well. So I should also mention that we built this because I've worked in aerospace and space industry for a long time, but we've actually found that there are a good number of customers outside of the space industry that are finding a lot of value in what we've built, and we are supporting customers outside of the space business as well.
Brilliant. So we've seen quite a bit of interest in recent, probably the last year, maybe slightly longer, with companies and projects, people talking about sort of total domain awareness concepts, this linking together information and networking sources from terrestrial applications, aerospace applications, and space applications. So I'm assuming that Epsilon3 could play a role in the engineering of such systems and solutions.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we are building a lot to support what our customers are asking for. So as we sort of build out the capabilities and we build out the customers that we have, we're supporting a good number of customers in launch and in-flight operations right now. And we are consistently getting feedback from them on new things that we can build. So if you're interested in giving feedback, we would love to hear it and put that on our roadmap of things that we can build.
Fantastic. Well, yeah, if anybody else has any questions out there, please do feel free to ask them in the chat or the Q&A. I had another one there, Laura, if you don't mind asking. How do you guys go about handling sensitive data that can arise in, with proprietary systems or working with potentially military, contracts?
Yeah, that's a great question. So right now we are hosted on the AWS GovCloud in the United States, which is ITAR secure to ensure security for proprietary data. Each customer's instance of Epsilon3 is firewalled from all others, and none of their data, none of the customer data we have access to. So I don't have access to anybody else's data, and they're all compartmentalized from one another. So, if one company wants to be completely on their own, they obviously already are. We also offer on-prem services. So if you wanted an on-premise deployment and were worried about security, that is something that we do also offer. And we are working on some of the extra deployments in more secure GovClouds and other applications. So that is something that we are actively working on now.
Right, excellent. That makes a lot of sense, and obviously is an important aspect of things for a lot of people. And another quick follow-up. You obviously have the background in working on human spaceflight missions, and you mentioned some of the applications there. Have there been any particularly complex engineering issues in such missions that Epsilon3 has kind of worked to solve, or any that you didn't expect, even?
Yeah, so I only know what our customers are telling us, and because I'm not privy to everything that they're doing, but I know that there are some safety applications that Epsilon3 has helped specific customers with. when they are doing either high pressure testing or high pressure operations. That's something that they needed to communicate and coordinate with their team. And they had a hard time kind of communicating that prior to using Epsilon 3. They had people in the field and people, operating from the console, and being able to kind of coordinate without voice communication was really useful for them. In addition, there were some customers saying, they didn't have records of what they had done a month ago. And it was really nice to have those records in Epsilon 3 to then refer back to what they had done or who did it, so that they had a point person to talk to. Because I can recall many times when I was looking at notes and I had no idea who wrote the notes and who found, the problem. So I just went to each person who I thought, which probably wasted me a couple hours of my time. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
And I guess, what are you hoping for? What does the future look like for Epsilon 3? Because I would encourage the anybody in the audience who is interested in the platform and is listening. I'll talk a little bit about sort of the next steps. But your newsletter, your changelog newsletter, is really valuable, I think, to show what's going on at the company and what's sort of done month by month. But yeah, I wondered if you could just give us a little bit about the bigger picture and the next few years.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to refer to Rich on that one.
I apologize. Could you just repeat the question quickly?
Oh, just on the roadmap and what the future looks like. So we send out change logs every 2 weeks. We build and release new features every 2 weeks, which are directly features that our customers have asked for. And then we also communicate and prioritize the roadmap from customer feedback. So Rich has been working a lot on the roadmap for the year. And so we are trying to kind of basically streamline that process of road mapping and making sure that what we're building is actually what people want.
Yeah, and so far our roadmap this year is really focusing on some integrations with other kind of components in your software stack, such as the ticketing systems, the potentially the inventory or requirement systems, so that we can kind of automatically pre-populate your procedures with choices. We're looking at some advanced sign-off behaviors, so that certain steps might require other steps, for example. And more just making sure that our editing capabilities are top-notch and that you can define your own custom review cycle in case you have responsible engineers. So all in all, we're making enhancements on the tools administration in case you need some templates or versioning numbers, the editing to make more advanced review or simulation cycles, and all the way down to the operating, where we're going to try to make sure that you know exactly who's in the procedure with you, what role they're playing, and just making sure that the team stays tight, really end to end through your operations and procedure management.
Fantastic. Well, I think we're almost at time there, so I think that's a really great place to finish up. So yeah, thank you very much, Laura. That was great, and thank you too to Rich. We really appreciate you sharing all these insights and sharing the live demo there for everybody who joined and everyone in the satsearch community. And to everybody who's online, we will follow up with everybody who requested further access to Epsilon 3 and to discussing the potentially a further trial or a further demo or trial. So please look out for that connection. And just a sort of a final couple of notes from satsearch. We hold a variety of events. This is our first demo that we've done in this format, so we're really pleased to Laura for this, and yeah, hopefully we'll be, well, the plan is to hold plenty more this year. The next live event that we actually have is going to be another webinar. And we held 4 webinars last year. They were all really interesting, I think, and really go into the technical details of different aspects of technologies, different classes of technology, but with speakers from different companies sort of not going into as much detail as Laura was able to in the event today, but talking about the different offers of companies. So our next is going to be on February the 16th on microsatellite platforms, specifically the sort of 100 to 400 kg class, looking at buses and the sort of systems out there, what can be done with these, with the satellites in this form factor, what are the engineering challenges that one faces when using them. And hopefully, if you'd be interested, the sign up form is the link should be in the chat, and will be promoted on our website, etc. very soon. If you're unfamiliar with satsearch, if this is your first time interacting with us, then we have an online marketplace for the space industry featuring thousands of products and companies from all around the world. On the platform, you can look at technologies, products and services in all different classes of the industry. We've got information available from many different companies and in many different ways, including datasheets, CAD models, etc. And anything that you do require for your trade studies, procurement purposes, or research that you can't find on the platform, then we have a free request system that you can use to seek further information from us there. And we respond to every request, and we facilitate the response with the connection with the supplier to every request that's relevant for that. So please try us out next time you require anything for your own purposes there. And finally, just to go into 3 little ways that you can connect with us further and extend the engagement. 3 of the things that we do for our for the community as a whole. One is the Space Industry Podcast, on which Laura has been a fantastic guest in the past. And you can sign up for that on wherever you get your podcasts. There we go into the same sort of information that we share on the platform and that you have heard today and in our webinars. There's also our weekly email newsletter, which discusses some of the trending topics and stories in the space industry, in the commercial space industry, and which we also share the detailed information on the milestones that our members have achieved and changes to our own platform and the data that we have. And finally, there's our Slack channel, our own little cozy corner of the internet where we facilitate further interaction with the community and discuss various topics that might be of interest to engineers today. So thank you very much once again, everybody, for spending time with us, and particularly thank you to Laura and Rich. Everybody else, have a great day.
Thanks so much for having us.